So do you serve wine when people wait for the dogs, or they just drop them off?
They don't typically wait, but yeah, that's if we had a larger facility, I would definitely do that.
You should totally add a little shed or something out there and do charcuterie boards and wine while they wait.
Welcome to Motion Matters, where we shine a light on the entrepreneurial journey, sharing real stories of triumph and challenge. Guided by Jamie Tilka, we connect, inspire, and educate. This is Motion Matters.
Hello and welcome to Motion Matters. This is the entrepreneurial podcast where we talk about the trials and tribulations of entrepreneurship. And recently, during some of my social media interactions, I ran across Jamie Buccheri, and she has a great story about how she started her business and kind of where it is at now. And so I invited her on, and she said yes, and here we are today. So, Jamie, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for getting up so early for your time. Yeah, if you could take a minute and just kind of give everybody a little bit of background about yourself and who you are and kind of what transpired you into the entrepreneurial journey.
I would love to. So I was 18 and I didn't really know what direction I wanted to go in. I had kind of my parents wanting to push me into the medical field, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. So for the time being, I ended up kind of just settling my way into vet tech school, which was very expensive, took a ton of my time, and I was working in multiple vet offices, and it's just a very grimy industry, how some of the veterinarians act, and it wouldn't, once you go home, you don't feel good working there, So I ended up taking a position at a grooming school in Anaheim, California, just to kind of like do something else besides just seeing the medical side of the animal industry all day long. So I did that, and it kind of gave me the idea to start grooming on the side a little bit because a lot of people in school were doing the same thing. And obviously, because I was still a student, I offered way lower prices than people around me, which kind of made me get really busy really quick.
Yep.
To the point where at first I didn't think about employees. I was like, called my friend and said, "Hey, can you come help me groom this dog today?" And then called two of them, and then, okay, we should probably get you guys on payroll. Is kind of how it started. And then, over time, hired, like traditional staff, and it grew really, really big, really fast. And then in 2015, I lost my son, and that kind of just brought me into this laser focus for my life, because it made me realize that I didn't like where I was. So I continued to work 7 days a week for a little while, but basically my take out of that was like, I don't want to work 7 days a week every single day for the rest of my life until I retire. I want time for myself and time for my own life. So I just got laser focused on that. And, now I have 4 locations, and I have a online grooming supply company, and I have 2 children.
I resonate with the loss. Can I ask, was the loss during carrying or after birth?
He was 5 months old.
Okay. My wife was 7 months when we lost. This was just in October too, so still a little bit fresh. But when you talk about reflecting, it's amazing, right? I shouldn't say it's amazing, but it's unfortunate that a lot of times I think that we have to have certain tragedies that really kind of redirect our lives. And it sounds like that had that impact on you, and for me right now, we're going through something similar. So I definitely resonate with that. So for you though, it was kind of a realignment of how much time and energy you were going to put into the business, right? Because would you say at that point you were completely sucked in?
Oh yeah, I was a slave.
Yeah.
And I thought that was what owning a business was, and that's what I was going to continue to be like.
I literally said that exact same word to my wife this morning. Like, I'm trying not to get too deep into it because I'll probably get all emotional, and then people aren't gonna wanna watch the show because they're like, "That dude's just crying." But, this morning, I was like, "I'm literally just a slave." That's I just get up and, you know, even, the relationship aspect of it with your spouse is like, you're so mentally engaged in it all day long, and, like, last night trying to go to dinner, but staying actively engaged is just incredibly challenging because you're constantly thinking of all the stuff that you have to take care of. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Tell me, like, was entrepreneurship a planned decision? It sounds to me like it was happenstance that you were heading towards the W-2 job, but then by chance this just started blowing up, and then is that kinda how it played out?
Yeah, my entire journey up into every single salon, everything is an accident. Like there was nothing that was I didn't plan any of this.
Wow. That's even crazier because entrepreneurship is such a daily struggle, right? I mean, there's highs, but there's so many lows, and right, that's typically where people tap out. And so for you to persevere through that, not even necessarily having that as the end state objective, or I don't know, do you feel like maybe to some extent, maybe that was helpful for you? The fact that you were kind of building the airplane in flight without knowing that you necessarily wanted an airplane?
I think so. Yes.
Can you give an example of how you think that that potentially helped you maybe overcome some challenges that could have potentially just made you tap out?
At certain stages there would be times where I would try to plan things out, and I feel like just as everything in life, like it, anytime I try to put energy into a plan, something completely different happens.
Mm,
So I kind of stopped doing that. So it's not that, when something comes on my plate or I see an opportunity that I'm just like completely like, oh, it'll fall in my lap or not. Like once I can see something slightly in sight, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for it. But I feel like that works better for me because if not, I end up putting my time and energy into things that like don't end up working out, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, it does. So along kind of saying, "Hey, I'm going to do a side hustle and I'm going to do some grooming because I want to feel like what this feels like," and then it blows up and it becomes something. Like, at what point was it like all in for you where you're like, "I'm going to move forward with the grooming thing and I'm not going to, go in another direction."
I was in vet tech school still. I still had a couple years left, and I'm like in class. They're doing a lecture, and I'm just writing out like part of my business plan, like I had been for the last month, just not even there where I'm at. And
Mm.
I just dropped my pencil and stood up and was like, I'm leaving. And I never came back.
Wow.
And then a couple months after that was another one of those like, okay, am I going to commit or not? Because someone ended up not liking us that lived in the neighborhood, told on me. The city gave me 90 days to leave. So at that point, it's like, okay, do I put my name on a commercial lease or do I go get a job or what do I do? So that was another thing where it was like, okay, what am I doing? And at that point, there was no question. I was helping more people by offering low cost grooming than I was working for veterinarians.
So, can you elaborate on the city thing? I'm confused. Were you running it out of your house?
Yeah, I was running out of my mom's garage. I was 18. I just graduated high school. I was grooming out of my mom's garage.
Wow, right out of the gate. Good job for you, man. Good job. So the neighbors complained and said, "Hey, Jamie's running, or Jamie's mom's letting her run this business out of her garage and we don't like it." And so that's when they basically gave you a cease and assist type of thing.
Yes.
Wow.
We lasted about a year. So it did pretty well. It was enough time for me to like save up and everything. I was ready, but it's definitely a crazy experience.
Okay, so then how did you transition? Because that's a juncture um, in and of itself that I think potentially can cause a lot of people to step away.
Totally.
Because I don't know what was your financial situation at that. Like, how did you fund it? Where did you find it? Can you talk about that?
Well, things were just so I was 18, and within that same month, I applied for to rent a house on my own
Hmm.
with no other co-signers, and then the same thing with the salon. And landlords were just at the time were just like, sure, sure, sure.
Wow.
No, it is not the same. And my mom experienced something like that too. Like when she was younger, she bought a commercial building with a fake ID at her age. So I feel like things are almost impossible to get away with now. But I feel like years ago, I don't know, you're able to do a lot more than you are now. So yeah, and within the same month, I was in a house and leased a commercial building I was like 19 at that point,
What year is this? Can I ask?
2012.
2012. That's the year my daughter was born. Okay, so 2012. It sounds to me like the main mentorship, or at least some type of advisory role, was probably your mom, or was there somebody else?
No, so my parents are definitely both entrepreneurs. My dad's kind of like he gets into things, gets really into them, and then wants to start something new. My
Mm,
mom is a business owner. However, she kind of operates. I'm just gonna say she operates in the gray area, and that's just not really like where I align my life. So mentorship, no. But
yeah,
the whole just growing up around entrepreneurship, yes, on both sides.
that's awesome. So, so you said you applied for a house, they gave it to you, and then I don't know if I missed it. Did you rent out an additional commercial space, or did you try to then rerun that business out of that new house?
No, I rented out a commercial space and then had both.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable talking a little bit about the numbers, like had you saved up over that first year of business running out of the garage, had you saved up enough that you could do that, or did you have to go get a loan? Like, how did you do that transfer?
I feel like I was really good at just like I hunted. We had someone in the family that would kind of offer us like discounted construction, and
Mm.
and then I just was really good at like bargain hunting, like I drove like 2 hours to find these grooming tables that were at a discounted price. And I feel like I just was able to build that place out really for not as much money as it would have typically cost.
Wow. So resourcefulness in your ability to be able to find that stuff. But like, what did the rent in 2012? What was the rent running for a commercial space in California?
2,200.
Okay, and so I'm assuming you probably had to come up with first months and a deposit, or maybe even 2 months or deposit.
It was, yeah, first month and then deposit. Yes. But they gave us 6 months for free.
So you had probably
Yeah, there was stuff like that back then too out here in California. Like we would get my house, I got 3 months for free, and then the business, I got 6 months for free because they want to
what?
give you time to build out your suite so that you're not paying rent while you're in business.
That's awesome. I mean, I've only dabbled in I only have one commercial space. We bought the building. I honestly didn't know that was a thing. I mean, it makes sense to me.
They don't do that anymore. I haven't seen that in 10 years.
Wow. Talk about timing.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So you had a 6-month window in order to be able to kind of get things rolling and build some stability in the commercial space.
Exactly. But we people were waiting for us to open because we had gotten so busy in the garage. So literally day one, there was a line out the door.
So you talked about your prices, really what drove a lot of your business. Did you have to adjust once you went to the commercial space?
So at first, no, because minimum wage was,
Reasonable?
yeah, it was totally doable to have low prices. And then also at the time, there were not strict laws on vaccines and microchipping. And since I had gone to vet tech school, I was offering that for a little while until they passed a law that you can only do it under vet supervision. So we were also offering like some medical services here and there. No, it was great. I haven't felt the impact of being a low cost business until the last couple years. Now there's no, at least in California, there's no low cost business or you're shutting down.
Yeah.
There's no the 99-cent stores are shutting down. Like those businesses just don't exist anymore.
But fair to say that by that time you had established enough notoriety and enough customer service base that people were like, well, I want to be with Jamie, period.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's great to see that you were able to have that opportunity. It's amazing that you built that straight out of 18 years old. Because, well, I guess that probably attributed, like you said, somewhat to your upbringing, being in and around that mindset. But I sure as heck was not thinking about that at 18 years of age. So that's pretty awesome. So you get in 2012, you move out on your own, and you get your own commercial space. And how long was it before you got a second location?
It was 6 years. That
6
again was
years.
not planned. I thought I was just going to be one location forever. And then there was a groomer that worked for me that asked me if I would go look at this grooming shop that was for sale in Temecula. And I went there and I fell in love with it. She ended up getting too scared and backed out. And I said, hey, do you mind if I take the opportunity? So that one was purchased from an existing owner. And then the last 2 salons were just in the last calendar year. So last
Wow.
was in April, and then the third was in August of last year.
Man, I have questions about that growth rate there, but
Yeah.
I want to step back to the loss. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because you also said there was a realignment for you of like where your focus is and the fact that you didn't want to be a slave. So what what did you do during that period that had made it so that that you weren't a slave, but also that, because for people listening, they're also going to want to, okay, well, you realigned your life. You're not, grinding 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day. Well, then how were you able to scale from there too? Like, how did that play out?
I mean, that was really the only way I was able to scale. Like at the time, my mindset was like, I'm a power groomer. I can groom more than anyone in this building. So if I stay here all day, I will make us money. And that is like how I was giving myself to the business. And then after hours, having to do everything else because I didn't have a manager, I didn't have a back end person. I did everything on my own.
Oh my
So
gosh.
basically my goal was to hire people that were as close to my capabilities as possible or as many power groomers as possible. And then from there it was like, okay, now it's time to hire a management system, which that was really hard to fit in, especially being low cost, because you having someone there that doesn't bring in income is really tough. That's like a ceiling that you have to break through. But once I was able to afford a manager, then I was able to at least take like 2 days off a week, 3 days off a week. So that's when I started getting easier because I was 7 days a week. We were open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and I opened and I closed. I was super young. I had the energy for it. So thank God I did it then. But yeah. And then really, I would still be pretty like micromanagey and like, you're just like that when you have a business. But once I had 2, 3, and then 4, it forces you. Like I physically do not have the time to micromanage or even do any tasks that aren't completely operational. So I'm kind of forced into a place now where I have to step back. And I feel like a lot of people have to get themselves there because if you give yourself the choice to step back, you're not going to. You're going to
Right.
be like, no, I'll get this done. I'll get this done. You have to be forced.
Yeah. No, I had to eat that. I had to eat that humble pie or eat that crow, whatever you want to say. Uh, and if I'm being brutally honest with myself, I mean, I'm still struggling with it, right? I mean, that's why I kind of said what I said earlier is I'm trying to get myself out. But I don't know if you ever read the book called The E Myth, which stands for the entrepreneurial myth. but it talks about exactly what you're talking about. And so this girl makes great pies. And so all of her friends are like, man, you should open up a pie business. And so she does. And then she ends up working herself to death because she's trying to do every facet of it. She's trying to be the technician. She's trying to be the accounting. She's trying to be she's trying to be the vision. And needless to say, you experienced it. I'm experienced it. Many entrepreneurs experience it. And that is, it, it's too much, right? And so it's just overwhelming. And at some point, you have to bring somebody on. So the fact that you got to that point where you recognize that and you didn't fail for it is amazing. That's awesome. Um, so you kind of talked about it, that's a tough thing to bring on that first hire where you have to pay somebody a salary, and in your mind you're like, but I can save money. But ultimately, would you agree that that ended up helping you grow?
Yes, because working on the business was able to allowed us growth more than me just grooming more dogs within the business.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is it still the same manager, by the way?
No,
So you cycled.
no, absolutely not.
So now,
It's been a lot of people in the last 12 years.
yeah,
Let me rephrase that. It's taken a very long time to find a solid, dedicated, loyal team.
I work a lot in the construction space, and I told everybody the one thing that's the very incredibly difficult to find is somebody that cares, right? I find people with capability, but if their give a shit meter is pegged, then what's the quality that they're providing? Particularly if you're talking about a customer service based thing, as you well know. If you come in there and you don't, I mean, of course you need to take care of their pets properly, but if you just generally are not cordial and talk to them like crap, like nobody wants to come to your store, right? It doesn't make it. And so to find somebody that's going to represent you properly is difficult, or that cares about your business the way that you care about the business. Um, but you're saying that now you've kind of found somebody, right?
Multiple people, but yeah.
That's awesome. And so one of the mentors that I have talks about, you know, compensating people by the value that they bring to you and your organization. So, would you say that you also had to, um, readjust maybe what you were comfortable with initially, like paying somebody to try to help you do that?
Yes, and then also just because again I was a low cost salon, so that there was times where I wanted to pay people more or probably would have been able to have higher quality people, but because of the low cost issue I wasn't able to do that. So now that all of that is kind of fixed, now I'm kind of more comfortable with what I'm able to like provide people salary wise.
Have Have you kind of shifted where maybe you're more of a premium salon now?
There's two that are definitely in that transition right now. It definitely takes time.
Yeah.
It's a rough transition because we're changing like our foundation, like what I started this off of low cost grooming and helping people, and then now we're more expensive. Like we obviously the quality of our care is, we constantly strive to like raise the bar for that, but we're not the cheapest anymore. And some people that used to be able to afford us can't afford us anymore.
Is that a difficult conversation?
It is very difficult just because it bothers me because it's where I started. But minimum wage is triple. I can't pay groomers and the manager's minimum wage. So it's in like the high 20s and 30s. I have 28 people. Workman's comp has doubled. Rent, like everything has gone up. So it's either I adjust or it dies. So that's not going to happen.
Wow. So this is I'm in North Carolina, so the prices that you're throwing out, yes, I've seen stuff on news, but I'm not living that life, right? So I'm a little bit oblivious to it. Um, if I bring in a 20-pound dog and I want to get a premium service, what does that cost in California for you to survive, for your business to survive? I mean,
To be comfortable and not have any hiccups with bills and organizing everything, you need to be about $90 or $100 for a small dog haircut. haircut and bath service.
Wow. I thought you were going to say significantly more than that because I think we pay 60 here, 60 or 65. But the minimum wage isn't even close to what you just said. And neither is the rental prices, I'm sure.
Well, it's a struggle because for some reason groomers are like we've always been known to undercut ourselves.
Mhm.
So I don't think like that's just like the top that the area even like has the confidence to charge.
Wow.
So that's very difficult. Like there's people charging 50, and how they're surviving, I don't.
Well,
They're probably
they're probably doing what Jamie Buccheri did, 10 years ago, which is you're doing everything and killing yourself
yeah.
mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. Um, and I'm sure part of it must be volume for you too, right? Like how many groomers are at each shop?
We all have different the two busiest ones, there's about 10 people at each one.
10 people at each one. Well, but not 10 people working every single day, correct?
No, probably like 7, 8 at one time.
Wow, 7. And then what's the average time for a grooming session? An hour?
1 to 3 hours because dogs come in not taken care of. A lot of the dogs we do are bad behavior, so 1 to 3 hours for a small dog.
So your average groomer is probably pushing out 3 to 6 clients a day, depending on the extent of the.
Yeah, we push for a minimum of 5. Some groomers are up to 7 or 8.
Sorry, I'm doing math in my head.
It's okay.
It's interesting to me. So what transpired? You kind of suggested something, but can you tell us a little bit more about what transpired within the past year? You said there was an opportunity and then you added the 2 stores. So kind of what happened at that point?
Well, the first one, I guess, was my fault because I found it on Facebook Marketplace. But I was like, I'm just going to drive by. I'm just going to go look at it. Obviously, I'm not going to purchase a salon right now. That would be crazy. So yeah, I drove by and I went in and I met with the owner and we just really clicked. And yeah, I ended up walking in with 0 money down, him carrying the loan. The landlords approved me right away. So it was just like one conversation and it was just done.
Wow. Do you happen to listen to Cody Sanchez at all?
No.
Okay. She talks about buying businesses. A lot of times she talks about buying simple, boring businesses. Um, but anyway, just what you just said, the type of opportunities that are out there in order to be able to buy a business. And I think for a lot of people that aren't in the space, I would have never known this. You think about it the same way that you think about a house or a car, right? You're like, I got to go in and I got to put a certain amount of money down and I have to be able to make a certain amount of payments. But I think when you're going in there to buy a business, particularly if it's somebody that maybe is in a situation where they just need to step away, like they're just not there anymore, well, then there's a lot of flexibility on how you structure the deal. And so you were able to walk into that with no money down and take over the lease. He held the note. Like that's amazing. I'm assuming the startup capital and it's the equipment's there. The startup capital was virtually nothing. And then you come in there and you dabble Jamie's little extra spices in there and how you've got your things to go, and then there you go. And then you start to see the differentiation between the profit margins, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, I was able to do that with 3 and 4. Literally no money down. Started paying the loan payment the next month. Landlords had no problem. So yeah, it was definitely luck.
Did Mr. Buccheri say, "What are you doing?"
I'm yeah, no. I'm single.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Well, then you don't have to worry about asking anybody or discussing about it. It's all for you, right?
Yeah. No, I've been alone this entire journey. I've had relationships here and there, but I've been primarily alone this whole time.
We don't have to dive in, but now I'm just curious. Is that because you're so enthralled in the businesses and it's just too challenging to find something that's balanced?
No, I think my picker's broken. the thing inside my brain that chooses decent people. I could do it at work, not at home.
I think I've heard somebody say something similar, but not that specifically. That was a great one-liner. My picker's broken. I'm probably going to turn that into a T-shirt and then send it to you. In fact, maybe that's free advertisement. That sounds bad, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Marketing sounds better. Maybe. Wow, that's funny. So you unintentionally buy a third one. How did the fourth one come about?
I ended up hiring this lady who way overqualified to just come and work as a manager for me. Like she's been all around she's like basically has a doctorate in grooming is the best way I can explain it. And she basically owned her own salon like 20 miles from one of mine and built it up to be this amazing, like great reviews, beautiful place. And she couldn't do it. She said, I stay up all night. I get a letter from the IRS. I want to throw up. Like, I want to work in the grooming industry. I don't want to necessarily groom, but I don't want to own a business anymore. So she sold her business, came to work for me. And then 3 months after I bought that other one, was in absolutely no place to buy a fourth salon. She told me that the lady is backing out of the loan and that she doesn't want to go back to operating the business and knows that I'm not ready, but asked if I would take over that and help her out.
Wow. I don't know if you're spiritual or not, but man, it sounds to me like the stars aligned for you very uniquely in these two specific instances in which you've kind of lined out for us. Because in all of the entrepreneurial books and podcasts and things that I've read, I mean, you got the golden ticket, right? Which is somebody who has the expertise and is incredibly qualified, but doesn't want to deal with running the business. They just want to come and punch the clock and be able to do what they love. That's it. And so you got that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So does she run all the stores?
She is now we call her the regional manager. So she visits each one of the stores one day of the week and just kind of trains the managers and makes sure everyone's on board. Well, a part of what I used to do.
Wow. She sounds like...
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yes. Well, because I mean, that's what I'm looking for, right? Is because how do you get that off? But then you got to have the money to pay for them and stuff like that too. So now you're at 4 stores. Are all of them profitable, or does one of them have to kind of siphon from the other?
No, I don't ever. They don't ever mix with each other.
Okay.
If a business needs money, it comes from my pay.
Got it.
There's just one bloodsucker. The rest of them are profitable.
Is it one of the first 2 or the second 2?
The third.
Ah, the one with the easy transition. What's killing that one?
There was just problem after problem. Like when we first moved in, he didn't take one of the ex-employees off of the computer system. So she did a mass email that said, this grooming salon moved down the street to her new grooming salon that she opened 3 blocks away. So that was like the first hiccup. And then I feel like there was just like, no problem. I'm used to rebuilding. I'm like, okay, all right, we'll start over. But then it keeps happening and it keeps happening and it keeps happening. And then the salons are all in different areas from high income to low income. Mm-hmm. And that is the more lower income area. So just figuring out like the marketing with that area, everything is just so different.
I'm thinking about it in my head. I probably shouldn't think about it too deep. Anyway, that's super interesting. So right now you're just trying to figure out how to reposition it so that what works for that area specifically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And all of these are Southern California?
Yes.
So I'm guessing that there's nothing on the horizon for you, or so you think, additional.
Well, I don't know. I keep saying no, and then I keep doing it. So, and then like I feel like once I've like put this magnet up, and then now I'll get like a phone call. Do you want to buy my salon? I'm like, please stay away right now. I just give me 3 months, okay? Give me some time to get my life together first.
Yeah. Are they all the same name?
No, they're all I'm like really paranoid and weird about like separating things, so they're all separate LLCs, separate names.
That's interesting because what I'm wondering is, do you think that that help or hurts your marketing? Because if you've built a name for yourself, like, do you feel like it's more challenging because you're rebranding rebranding your business every time, essentially?
I like being able to have 4 different things, like our social medias look different on here than here and just all that sort of stuff, because it's kind of cool to see what works instead of just sticking to one thing for all of them. But really the paranoia comes in is to more like the negative things. So let's say an emergency happens and something crazy happens at one of the salons, then the rest of them don't have to be tied down to the mistake of one person at one salon, or like a lawsuit being the same thing. It's like now that's all tied into all these locations. Like, I don't know, I'm just paranoid. Nothing like that has ever happened, but
Yeah.
I like the being able to like try different things and have like a completely different view on all of them, and then yeah, the safety of it as well.
I think the protection of the businesses makes perfect sense to me. I mean, in real estate, it's very similar when you talk to asset protection. It was just thinking about, basically riding the wave of the name you've built for yourself with inside the industry. So, but I don't know. I obviously that you'll figure out how, or you are figuring out how you use that and market it so that those businesses can grow and prosper as well. My next question that I would like to ask before we kind of wind down here is, if you were talking to some entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs that want to get into it, is there like one specific piece of advice that you would offer to them based on everything that you've been through?
I would just say that a few things. So I would say that you're never going to be ready. There's never going to be a time where you're going to be like, "This is great. This is the time to go." So really, just if you want to escape your 9 to 5, if you want something more, you will prioritize the time to do it. Like, it's going to be hard, but you can work a 9 to 5, come home, put your kids to sleep, and work on your business if you want it that bad. And then something I always say for business owners is make sure you're viewing yourself as an athlete. We don't look at ourselves like that, but we are. We need to be constantly training our mind, body, and spirit. And we need to eat food that consists of nutritional value and get our bodies moving, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not going to be clear headed to take care of anything else around us.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. I want to also give you an opportunity to tell people how they can get a hold of you, if they're in Southern California, or if they want to reach out to you in any other way. Like, what's the best way to get a hold of you or to find out more about your business?
I'm personally a ghost right now. I deleted my social media, my personal social media. So really it's just going to be the businesses, and they're all different. So are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Doggy Spa in Corona, Fallbrook Pet Parlor in Fallbrook, California, Lakeland Pet Grooming in Lake Elsinore, California, and then Doggy Spa in Corona, California.
2 in Corona, 1 in Fall.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I repeat one? Corona, Lake Elsinore, Fallbrook, and Temecula.
Temecula, you missed that Temecula the first
Temecula
time. Isn't that wine country?
Yes.
So do you serve wine when people wait for the dogs, or they just drop them off?
They don't typically wait, but yeah, that's if we had a larger facility, I would definitely do that.
You should totally add a little shed or something out there and do charcuterie boards and wine while they wait. And then now I'm adding to
That's a good idea.
your pain. I'm sorry. Well, thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And thanks for coming on the show and sharing your story. My hope is that somebody hears your story and that it's inspiring to them to hear that, it's not unheard of to have to go through struggles, but most importantly, to persevere and to get through them and keep working. So thanks for sharing your story. I really appreciate it, Jamie.
Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.